of baseball. Got to represent my home team. Thank you, everyone, for joining us. We're so thrilled to have everybody here. For those of you, most of you probably, who don't care about baseball, it is opening day and it's happy hour day. So it's a double whammy. I know no one outside of America and maybe Japan and Canada a little bit cares about baseball, but it's an exciting day here in the U.S. It just feels like spring is coming, and Adepticon, having just ended, feels even more like spring is coming. To me, Adepticon is one of those harbingers of spring, even though the weather in Chicago can be not great during Adepticon. It was pretty warm, all in all. We had a snow day, and then we had a nice warm day, and it was that's spring, at least here in the U.S. You kind of get all four seasons at one time. Just wait a minute. If you don't like the weather, you're going to get something else. So we had snow, we had rain, we had nice warm sun. We had it all. And that made it for a really fun Adepticon. And as we continue to allow people to join and come in, it was very dry, Jordan. That is absolutely true. I don't think I've ever used quite so much chapstick in my life. But it was a really fun event for us, Adepticon. We could not be more thrilled with the way it went, and my great thanks to everyone, those who are on and are not on yet, but I know are going to probably be joining from the Vanguard group, who was really unbelievably supportive of everything that happened at Adepticon. I cannot express to you enough my great appreciation for gamers and Vanguards who joined us there. It made it really fun and engaging. I know one of the things that we want to talk about very quickly, and it's a good way so that people who are joining at the last second don't miss out on all of it, is we're going to give a quick overview of the tournament play. If you're not aware, all of the lists, or I shouldn't say all the lists, the top lists are posted on our website with a quick overview of the Army list. So for those of you who have been asking, they are there. And I think, Tasso, correct me if I'm wrong, we did a link from social media as well. So if you follow Facebook, you'll see it. Am I right, Tasso?
Yes, the post will go up tomorrow.
Oh, it's supposed to go up tomorrow. But the information is live on the website now, so you get to hear and see it first. Leo, do you want to take people through the tournament a little bit and
Yeah.
share the love?
Yes. All right. So we have a lot of exciting things to talk about. So we'll take a little bit to go through. First of all, Adepticon. We're gonna talk about a little bit what happened, what will happen after Adepticon, which is also interesting. And we will then would like to introduce a very special somebody today. So Adepticon was great. We had 40 people, very excited to run the tournament. It was an absolute thrill. First of all, if any of you participated in this happy hour, thank you so much for playing with us. Those that couldn't make it, we hope to see you next year. It was a great event. For those that don't know, Nords took Adepticon 2024, followed by Spires, and then by 100 Kingdoms. A very, very good, very interesting list for the Nords, with a blooded, two 3-stands of Ogre, 2 3-stands of Bow Chosen, a Canyon Gear with Huskarls and a nice Jotnar, Salmon with Raiders, and a Sea Jotnar. Gave some very tough battles and managed to grasp the win. And it was actually Nords. They were great. They were both first and fourth, and there were a couple other players as well. So we see 2 Nord players in the top 5 with a Nord player winning it. So that was super, super exciting. Second place, we have the Spires with a high clone executor with cascading degeneration into 9 force-grown drones. Powerful combination, and in a regiment of marksman clones. We had a Ferromancer Warlord with 2 minimum regiments of Strix, a 5 brood drones. He had the Ferromancer had avatar projection, so he would go to the 5 brood drones, and another regiment of 3 brood drones. And finally, a Biomancer with bound clones, force-grown drones, and incarnate sentinels. Very, very well played by Carl Swanson. We have a little bit of we tease Carl for being his 5th second place. Hopefully, if he we might, if he gets 6, we might let him trade 6 silver fish gnomes for a gold one. We'll see. He he's our own Parabellum Leonardo DiCaprio situation. You can do it, Carl. We believe in you. We love you. And third, we have a powerful 100 Kingdoms Ascendon heavy list. So we have a Priory Commander Warlord with 2 minimum units of Seal Temple and 2 4-stand regiments of Ascendon. Then we have another Priory Commander, well, you guessed it, with more Seal Temple and then more Ascendon, and then a Chapter Mate with Mercenary Crosswomen. There was an insanely intense battle between the 100 Kingdoms player with 11 Ascendon stands against the Nords. Chuck, who won first place with the Nords, gave an incredible game. It was really nail biter, and I have to say I was very impressed by really by all players, but especially that table really showed some great level and skill of play. Of course, something that we do after every tournament, once Adepticon tournament was finished, we did what we'd like to say, we call it a round table. Essentially, we invite all of the players that have participated in that event, and we sit down and, well, they tell us how not good or not good we did with organizing the event. When it comes to game balance, we always want to make sure that we're there and we'll listen to your feedback. So with that, there are a few things that I'm gonna very briefly go through. Now I'm gonna write a post that I will that in the following days that I will upload to our website regarding Adepticon. The designer's thoughts about Adepticon and what is the what we'll be working on next. I will touch on a few things very briefly, and you'll be able to find more information as days are coming. So first and foremost, there's going to be a small update a small but important update for the Sorcerer Kings, and actually Sorcerer Kings is going to be a big part of our conversation today. But mostly there is two things that we care about. One is dual activation and rituals. So as you may know, rituals are split into the ones that are fire and those that are air. A very short sentence will be added into these rituals. And for example, the rituals from fire will say at the end that you may draw your next card, and if that card has the Born of Fire special rule, you may activate it immediately. Similarly to rituals of air. This is important as there was a little bit loss of tempo with the rituals, and we definitely had to bring it back. This is a quite important quality of life change for the Sorcerer Kings, and the other change, which actually isn't just for the Sorcerer Kings, but it is a more systemic update. But the Sorcerer Kings would like it as well. Is a change to Bloodlust. So Bloodlust it has served its thematic purpose, but unfortunately, losing control of your regiments has become something that is very difficult to handle for a lot of players, and is creating a difficulty curve that we decided we no longer need in the game. And so Bloodlust essentially will allow you to charge when you come outside the battlefield, and not withdraw from combat. So you no longer will be losing control of your regiment, since if you did not want to lose control, there were all these different mechanisms that might as well just not have it. So as far as Sorcerer Kings are concerned, when you're not going to have to worry about this for your mainstay regiments, and of course for all other factions that have that as well. Now, after that, there are a ton of small little changes that we want to do here and there, but the most important is that we're going to be doing a better, let's say, rewarding of complicated rules. The point here is not to change how they work, but to be able to communicate them to our audience. So things like reform will have a little bit of a rewarding and further simplification to avoid, let's say, issues that are happening right now. And let's see. And we'll be seeing a new special rule that I will only mention right now. We'll discuss about this in the future. That will be called brittle X special rule. Now that will be the exact opposite of tenacious, and that will allow you to take more hits, which is a very interesting design space moving forward for things like the Old Dominion, perhaps for things for situations where you want to trade, let's say, some sort of ability for a negative outcome. We're going to be seeing another small incremental nerf to the Ashen Dawn, among other things. And we will also be seeing changes to the Wadroon. So they are up next for a redesign when it comes to their chant and being able to give them back a little bit of their strength that they have been losing throughout the years. But we'll also be seeing, before a big update to the Wadroon happens, we will see an interim update to the Wadroon to give them a little bit of utility that they've been missing, so we can make sure that our Wadroon players do not feel left out. I believe that after this, we are ready to, like, as I told you, I would like to introduce a special.
Before you do that, Leo,
yes.
before you do that, I have a couple other Adepticon things too
Yes.
to just mention before we jump into all of the things. I want to also highlight from Adepticon the Resin Beast. And to me, the Resin Beast, year 2 for us participating and year 5 for the Resin Beast, this was an incredible year for us. I've been showcasing some of the items. I'm going to tell you right up front, those are my pictures. They're not the best. I know it. We have really professional ones that are being done and will be shared shortly. But one of the things that made us super excited, and it was very moving at the Resin Beast Awards ceremony, was that James Wappel, I'm not quite sure how you say his last name, my apologies, was the winner in the unit division for top prize with his Raptor Riders, which will be posted shortly on the social channels by us, because it is one of the more beautiful sets. I didn't get a great picture of it. I did not want to do him a disservice by showing my terrible picture of it. We have a really nice one coming up, and I think you'll be really pleased. But it was a very moving award ceremony because James's wife, Kathy, was a big part of Adepticon, a big part of the painting community. She recently passed, and he was given a standing ovation, in addition to having done a beautiful, stunning work with his Raptor Riders. So that was something that I felt was really worthy of being mentioned, as Resin Beast went from around 60 units and miniatures being entered in total to 143 this year, with 115 different applicants. We had a lot of winners for Parabellum. We expanded it to 4 miniature lines from 2 last year. And it was really just a beautiful thing to be part of. And the other thing, for those of you who heard about it but maybe didn't see it, and I think it's worthy of presentation, is our little mini Raja. He'll be showing up there on the screen in a moment. This was our con exclusive. Don't worry, it is a con exclusive that is going to be at other cons. It will also be part of our evening with the Sorcerer Kings, which is coming up for FLGSs who wish to participate. Let your retail rep know, or your distributor know. We don't care from whom you purchase your Conquest product. We care that you promote your Conquest product. And so we are doing an evening with the Sorcerer Kings, and we will make sure that stores have a small amount of these as part of the prize support for the evening with Sorcerer Kings. But we did sell a lot of them at Adepticon. People responded to it very well. It is actually a statue of a living elephant, so it is not an actual living elephant. And I'm sure Leo, when we get to the Mahout, will talk to you more about that. In fact, I know Leo will talk to you more about the Mahout. But this was more of a fun, beautifully painted miniature that people really responded well to. And you will see it again at upcoming events like KublaCon and UKGE, GameCon Canada. So there are going to be a lot of opportunities in addition to the FLGS opportunity I noted before. So an evening with the Sorcerer Kings, rounds out a lot of what I wanted to talk about from Adepticon. So, Leo, now, with my apologies for the delay, please do the introductions and the welcoming of our newest member.
Yes. So we've talked in the past how we want First Blood to be, to find its rightful place. We've talked about how Season 4 is going to find a world program with First Blood equally represented as TLUK. And a lot of you knew that so far, our design team has been require these extra people to make this work and make sure that we can give First Blood the love and attention that it deserves. And for this reason, I would like to introduce everybody our newest member of the team, Evandra Tamzo. He's working with us for developing further First Blood. We are working together right now into bringing First Blood into a place where it can be in a, let's say, in a good and balanced state for Season 4, and all of you will be able to compete for the world program. Evan?
Hello. It's nice to finally meet all of you in a proper manner. My name is Evandra. You can call me Evan. Van is also fine. Feel free if you have any questions or anything related to First Blood. I'm happy to help Leo and the team to develop First Blood. I think Leo's already mentioned the direction of where First Blood is going. I think it's something that we all believe in. We want First Blood to be an actual proper game where we can bring it to a competitive level, and to that we need to sort of look at it from a whole holistic perspective, as well as a couple of balancing issues as well. So look forward to some of the things that we're developing. I know I've worked with some of you already sort of in the background to do all of this, and to the rest of you, look forward to it.
Perfect. Thank you. Thank you, Evan. So yeah, everybody, when you're sending emails at rules@parabellum.com, apart from Reese and I, when it comes to First Blood, you will be getting also these replies from Evan. So Evan, thank you for joining the team. Welcome, and I hope everybody will get to meet Evan. Make sure to be part of our Discord server, and you can talk with the design team there.
Perfect. All right, so now we're going to go on to what is considered by many to be the main event. And I know some of this was teased. We're okay with that. We wanted to make sure that we had this out for Adepticon, and I think it was important to do so. But here is the upcoming May to September releases with some background behind each one, too. So even though I know some of you have seen some of the screenshots, many of you have not. And so this is the catalog of what is coming out, or at least most of what is coming out from May to September. You'll see the two-player starter here on the screen. It is absolutely loaded with value. City-States versus the Sorcerer Kings, ready to play both First Blood and Last Argument of Kings rule sets with quick start guides for 2 people for both games. So that means 4 quick start guides, not 2, 4 quick start guides. Getting you into the action quickly. We know people will want, particularly if you're playing TLAOK, to add to this. And this set is coming out in May on a little bit of a delay because we wanted to make sure that there was some variety in the assortments, and that if you purchase the 5th anniversary 1-player starter alongside this, you would have a very robust and complete ready-to-go army. So that is the logic there. And I don't know, Leo or Evan, if you want to jump in on any more of that.
Yeah, no, I'm excited. First of all, for the aesthetics of the 2-player set, it gives you a very, very, very good basis for an army. And combining it with a 1-player set, essentially you're just getting a very, very, very good base for your collection. If you're playing full on First Blood, and you're very close into finalizing your TLAUK army list. So very excited with these 2 releases.
I have a question about it, Daryl.
Go ahead, Joey.
Is it the new 2-player starter set going to keep the preview alt sculpt sorcerer, or will that change over the next few months?
That's a great question, Joey. The first 1,000 units produced will have the alt sculpt, as you see there. The next remaining pieces will have this sorcerer or sorceress, as you might prefer. So, very good question, Joey. Thank you for, and we didn't even rehearse that. So here
I know people
are
still want the preview.
people will want the preview, and the preview as a limited edition for us is sold out. And so, aside from the batch that we made to be included in the 2-player starter set. So I think maybe Leo, Evan, I'll let you guys discuss a little bit of how each of these dudes play or dudettes.
Perfect. Okay, so just to do a little bit of a general explanation. So regardless of whether you're playing TLA or First Blood, with the Sorcerer Kings, you will be met with a important decision very early in making lists for either system, and that is the elemental court your characters will be, let's say, following. You will be choosing either for the fire elemental court or air. A lot of you have been asking whether earth and water will be coming, and yes, they will be coming in the future, but they're not part of this release. So right off the bat, very easy to understand is if you're getting the Court of Fire, you will have access to a very completely different set of spells and occasionally abilities than if you, let's say, were to choose another, and that extends to both First Blood and TLAK. So every character has a unique set of spells or incantations for each court, right? So you're not going to find duplicate abilities, and that is definitely a lot of spells and abilities. And when you're going into list building, the rule is very simple. If you are playing with a Court of Fire, you go with the things that you see in flames. You fight fire with fire. If you're playing with a Court of Air, you're going to go with the Jinn, both let's say later on the Trina Varda and the mortal forces. If you're going with a Court of Fire, you have a Freak, you have an Aksasa, and of course the mortal forces as well. And on top of that, you will have for TLUK, you will find a new ritual system. Now, the ritual system is a lot of words, but it's very simple. It's very simply the following: it is a spell that takes a bit of time to cast. So you select a ritual, and every time you play a friendly regiment or character, you add a little marker on it. The moment you have as many markers on the ritual as its ritual marker value, then the ritual is cast. You take the card, and next turn you put it into your command stack as if it was a command card. And that's it. That's very simply how you cast your rituals. Would you like Evan to say a few things about how they play in First Blood?
I think in First Blood, a lot of Leo has already mentioned this. A lot of combination of all these Court of Airs and Court of Fire. So again, first thing you need to decide is whether you want to go fire and you want to go air, and then you look at the different spells that each of the sorcerer has, and there's slight variations to the different kind of sorcerers and the slight variations to the unit that they're comboing with. Like, for example, if you're bringing sorcerers, you want ghouls because they remove the feral ability, so that gives you a little bit more control over these ghouls. Whereas if you say like you bring the Raj, which has the powerful Jadu Blade ability, they can make him like a lot of attacks. So you want to bring him a more sort of powerful melee force to bring him in a unit with a lot of different units so that they can get them into melee. So a lot of these different combinations will be unique, and each game will be different depending on air or fire, what kind of units you bring. So there's going to be a lot of permutations, and a lot of the decision will come to the players on, what's best for you, what works for you, what works for one might not work for the other one. So there's a lot of flexibility in these list buildings, which will make it very interesting for a Sorcerer King player.
And the only thing I would add is essentially when you're selecting an elemental court, immediately it makes sense for you to go for elementals of the same, let's say, type, mostly because, let's say for First Blood, you have rules like elemental conduit. Similarly, you have infernal and etheric marker for Efreet and Dizine respectively. essentially what these rules are is that it allows you to extend the range of your spells or the potency of your spells, based on the inherent synergy of the elemental of your spells with the elemental core of the elementals that you're fighting with. So, very simply, if you're fighting with fire, go with fire. If you're fighting with air, go with air elementals. It's a very easy rule of thumb, and you'll see the synergies very easily unfolding in front of you.
Leo, a question from Mitchell is, won't this ritual mean you cast faster in larger games?
So, actually, what for the 2000 points, you will be casting. So the way you can think about it is that you are beginning to cast a ritual. You will be, let's say, casting a single ritual per round, and you can expect that ritual to start manifesting itself, let's say, by round 2 or 3, depending on your activations, right? And so by doing that, you're going to notice that you're going to be having essentially rituals coming online every round of the game. Definitely for smaller games, it will be a little bit harder. But to offset that, the Sorcerer Kings have a lot more spells than other factions. So when you're playing smaller games, you will find yourself depending more on your spell casting, and there are rituals that are there to help you with spellcasting. Whereas as you're going up with points, you're going to be finding yourself going with a mix of ritual spellcasting, and you're going to see that different characters have very different approaches to rituals. So, for example, if you want to go for a purely ritual, let's say game style, the Maharaja as the warlord is a very good idea. But if you want to go, let's say, for more spellcasting, more traditional spellcasting and elementals, the sorcerer is a very good idea. So definitely, when you're playing different size games, your focus might be changing from rituals to spellcasting. But yeah, if you start going for larger than 2,000 points, definitely you will be able to see not more rituals, but rituals coming online more often.
Thanks, Leo. Another question is that obviously right now we've introduced primarily the fire element. And there's a lot of question about, for example, since these characters are predominantly fire, will there be a version of these characters that evoke the wind? Will we do something around the water elements as well? And what's the timing for those? And I'm not sure the second part maybe
So
not ready to be disclosed, but
so
go ahead.
in regards to water and earth, this is we will have water and earth represented, but this is a discussion for these are gifts for the future. We'll see those in the future. Now, when it comes to different versions of the same sculpt, we definitely want to make sure that we have alternative sculpts that represent the different elements. But this is for down the line. If you've been following Bellum, you know that we do our fair share of alternative sculpts. So worry not, you'll find beautiful sculpts to represent your forces.
And of course, you could always paint them. If you look at the Ifrit, for example, those could easily be painted as water or as wind or as earth based on how ethereal they almost are. So you do have the ability to use them in other ways, even as they are. But Leo's right. You can pretty much count on alt sculpts.
Yeah, so essentially, what we mostly care as City State as Sorcerer Kings players, and I put myself in there because I've been really enjoying them lately, is essentially you care of the characters representing the different elements, because the elementals themselves will always be what they are. So the Ifrit are born of fire, and they will remain born of fire. The Jinn are born of air, and similarly will remain that. So it's the character's ability to evoke these different elements and belong to different elemental courts. And of course, you're going to see your army list differing a lot. This is what I love about this army. A simple change in the choices of my character suddenly changes my entire army list in terms of abilities, visually as well. And I just love how many layers there are in this, how many different ways there are for you to build the Sorcerer King's army for both systems, right? That is true for both First Blood and TLUK.
Any other things that want to be said about the Ifrit before we keep moving?
So a free, I'll go.
Hold on, just a quick one.
Mhm.
Oh, Severo.
Yes.
We did not know. We did not see you slide into our DMs.
Not only will there be alternate sculpts, but there will also be entirely new troop types. Just a heads up.
Yeah,
For the courts of the courts of earth and the courts of water when they arrive. But first we'll complete the released units and then we will complete those.
perfect.
All right.
So in regards to TLUK, Ifrit, both Flamecasters being the ranged version, Sword Dancers being the melee version, both have Infernal Marker or Infernal Branding. Essentially, one refers to ranged combat and the other one to melee. Essentially, the ranged version, you shoot at an enemy regiment and you brand them. That means that essentially when you cast a spell on that enemy regiment, you count as having rolled one additional success when casting fire spells. And similarly, when the Sword Dancers are in combat with an enemy regiment and you cast a spell from the Court of Fire on that enemy regiment, you get the similar effect. Evan, do you want to cover a little bit of the Ifrit in First Blood?
I think mostly again, roughly the same because of the Born of Flame rule. So they will be affected by units that are casting spells on them. And mostly a lot of the different combos that they have is, of course, in the ability of for example, the Shattering, which is essentially if you're casting the same spell and you have the same element, you gain basically an extra additional benefit. So there's a lot of internal synergies with all these models. So you can have like the Maharaja on one side and affecting in the battlefield on the other side. So again, a lot of the synergies relies on the elements that they have, whether it was fire or whether it was flame. And of course, this Ifrit represents sort of like the biggest, baddest troops that you can have right now outside of the Bakasura and the Raksafar. Is that how you spell them? Yes, the Bakasura and Ravanar. So yeah, bring a lot of these guys. These guys will form like mostly the bulk of your force, other than the Sardars, which is mostly the Rajakur, which will form sort of the basic shield wall of your army. So bring a lot of them. They're really good.
And what is really cool, Evan, is how personally what I like, and that's something I really like with the rules for First Blood, is unlike other factions, characters can actually bring an elemental as their own personal bodyguard. So you're going to find a character regiment with a character model and an elemental following right beside them, which I just like, absolutely love. Very thematic and very aesthetically pleasing.
Evan, do you see Carlos's question? Do you want to take that one?
Sorry, let me quick. How do you open the chat on this one? Oh, the feral in combination to the retinue. That's a very good question. Good question, Leo. Do you have any thoughts on this one? I think this is an interaction that is quite important to cover. I think we want to go and change the possibility of also changing it in First Blood as well.
So when it comes to the what you call it, the retinue is a different model than the regiment entry. So if you notice, we will be definitely working on Feral, but as I said, there will be a slight change of Feral for Conquest UK. Now, for First Blood, the change will not be as let's say radical, but definitely you're going to find a few differences. And for the purposes of the bound elementals, you're going to see that the Feral will not remain there. Just to answer the question.
I think thematically speaking, like these represents elements that are basically attuned to the warlord. So I think there will be additional synergy, so that they have additional controls over them.
Anything else, Leo, to add on the Raja Kur at this point? I know.
Yeah, so Raza
Evan,
Core,
talk about
trust,
them.
trusty bodyguards, very, very straightforward. They're there to keep your character safe, and they're there to help the Raj charge into combat and use his offensive abilities while supported by elementals. Very straightforward, well costed, well rounded, and a very solid frontline troop. And it's also the regiment that you get in addition to the 4 regiments you're allowed in the warband. And this is, you'll notice, Sorcerer King warbands, you will be noticing that they will have 5 regiments per warband. So yeah.
And I will say at Adepticon, this one probably got a significant amount of the oohs and ahs due to the metallic and the look of the painting that was done there. And the goals are up.
Goals, just I love them. Elemental zombies, essentially, ravenous, hungry to charge the enemy. I love the way they're portrayed in First Blood, and I love the way that essentially the sorcerer gets to really do that whole elemental zombie puppet master with them, which is a great change to how, let's say, the sorcerer is portrayed in Telia K. Essentially, let these run ahead of your force. They're there to fight against, light skirmishers. They're there to fight over objective zones. They're harassing units in both games and just flood your opponents with a ton of attacks. Low quality attacks, but just a ton of them. Fun, roll a lot of dice. Absolutely an important vanguard regiment for the Sorcerer Kings.
Evan, anything you
And
want to
with
add?
the rule
for
of
Blood?
mindless savagery with the command from the sorcerer, they can suddenly attack for a lot of dice, because you add a free out of sequence class action if you successfully cast the spell. So it is a very powerful unit, because they're cheap. Sometimes the opponent just sort of ignores them because they're focusing more on like your big Jins or your Rajakur or your Rakshasas. And then they come sweeping in and they start rolling over the objectives. So again, zombie apocalypse style, but with elementals. And of course, with the models, you can get them to be fire, you can get them to be air. And later down the line, you can also make them water and earth. So these are quite flexible in the way that you want to paint them. And and they work in First Blood because they have the attune element ability. So they will attune to whatever element that your sorcerer has. So that's also a very interesting ability for the ghosts.
So there was a question about the mini Raja and whether they can play on Mahud. So unfortunately, the mini Raja will be able to represent an infantry Maharaja. If you want to put the mini Raja on a Mahud, I guess you would be able to use it to do the pile of the elephant on top of the other elephant. That would be funny. But yeah, it will play as an infantry Maharaja.
Seriously, people. Seriously.
I fondly remember the times of the dinosaur stacking tower character in Brood of Umgara on Apex Predator. So I appreciate the humor in this.
Stavro, can we expect to see other bodyguard regiments similar to the Rajakur for other factions? Stavro? Oh, he went on mute for me for that. Interesting. Maybe so, maybe not. Maybe
Say it again, Daryl. Sorry, didn't hear that.
Oh, we're wanting to know if there are similar bodyguard style regiments for other factions coming.
Oh, that's not me. That's Leo and Evandra.
Oh,
So actually, the Raza Core theme is something that really ties into the Sorcerer Kings and how they play. They are these very well-trained, disciplined soldiers, best money can buy, that are there to to protect sorcerers while the elementals are doing all the work. So their unique nature is there to represent a very specific way sorcerer kings approach battle. If there is another faction that has such a clear cut, let's say, bodyguard regiment, we'll definitely see it.
All right. Now we're going to start getting into things you've not seen. Certainly not seen these painted yet. And I think another ooh and ah scenario at Adepticon.
Yeah, the Steelheart Djinn, just absolutely great models. I love the lines. I love the flow. I love how the poses. Just yeah. So these are the air equivalents of a Efreet. Instead of high volume of attacks, you're going for more quality of attacks. They're faster and they synergize with the core of air, as you would expect. And these are the Windborn genes, the ranged version. So as opposed to the Flamecaster Efreet, they are more long range. They have more high quality, let's say, shooting attacks. Of course, more points. And again, the Djinn, just like the Efreet, have their etheric marker and guidance abilities that allow you to essentially, when you tag an enemy regiment, it's easier for you to cast the spells from the Court of Air. So what's important to know, if you're a spellcaster, follows the Court of Air, the Djinn simply become your mainstay. If your spellcaster follows the Court of Fire, your Efreet become your mainstay. So pick the models that you like, and by choosing the right court, you will have them as mainstay and readily available to destroy your opponents.
Evan, jump on in.
So the way that the Windborn Djinn plays in First Blood, they're high movement with a lot of movement, with a movement of 6, and if impact, they're very powerful. So the Windborn Djinn is sort of like the range option. So again, you want to sit them slightly back in the objectives because they have a range of 16 barrage. So that's a powerful range unit that if the opponent tries to get across, they'll have to go through a lot of your lines. So you might want to use them to sort of like hold the objectives. But of course, you can also bring them slightly to the middle with like a bunch of spells, like for example, Raj's Strength of Air, so to make them get +1 defense or +1 evasion, or you give them spells like Galvanic Crown, which gives them reroll of their volley action. So again, they're a very powerful unit. Definitely will complement your army. Slightly different variation because the Efreet wants to sort of be a little bit. The Fire Djinn wants to be sort of slightly forward, while the Wind Djinn slightly wants to be in the back.
Now we get to the Rakshasa.
Oh man, I just love this model. Just look at it.
This got the most ooh and ahs. Amazing amount of response to this at Adepticon, and it was very interesting to see how many people who participated in the Resin Beast ordered it online immediately at the show. So that was fun.
Rakshasas are just, for me, I felt very fortunate writing rules for such a model. First of all, because it's just a very unique game piece. The Basakura and the Ravenar essentially are two sides of the same coin. They're these absolutely ravenous monsters, malevolent, full of arrogance and hubris. Actually, these are rules that they do have. The Basakura is, let's say, the duelist, the arrogant, let's say, monster that is there to seek characters, hunt them down, and destroy them. A lot of attacks and gain just simply extra charge distance, because sometimes you need to get to those characters in order to kill them, right? And as opposed to the Ravenar, we're talking about less attacks, higher quality, Fiend Hunter, high cleave, terrifying, and similarly to the Basakura, they get pluses to their charge distance when hunting monster regiments. I'm expecting to see both of them in play. I'm really happy with how Basakura has been playing so far, mostly because what's important is that for those of you that have been following the updates for TLUK, you know the changes to dueling and what saying no to dueling does for you. So expect for your accesses to be hunting down those characters and forcing them into very, very, very let's say unfortunate situations where they will either just forfeit securing an objective, or they would have to face the wrath of a Rakshasa. Tough choice. And similarly for First Blood, their roles are exactly the same. Essentially, they're reflected. Let's say those playstyles are reflected 1-to-1. Let's say for First Blood as well. So they are those hubris is cross system. Let's say.
Yeah, so Bakasura is more for hunting down enemy character regiments, and the Ravanar is to basically kill those monsters. So if you have any difficulties against Abomination, Jotnars in First Blood, you bring the Ravanar. Or if you're having difficulty against powerful character regiments, you bring the Bakasura. They're both powerful, and they have very powerful attack profiles, and they'll kill whoever you want to send them against.
All right, moving right along. We've got coming up. I just showed the video. I hope you saw at the end of the video that there is a third head that is also going to be included with this piece. So we're very excited to present these. I think similar to the Apex Predator for the Wadroon, I can imagine a many versions of these being on tables. So now we come to some of the new stuff that you've not seen at all. And the first item will be the Danur Disciples.
So I would simply put it as, if you want to play with a character that wants to be up in the front lines, let's say the Raj, occasionally the Maharaja, you go for Rajakur. If you want to go for a lot of rituals, Maharaja, and a lot of ranged spells with a sorcerer, you go for the Danur Disciples. Excellent range support unit, 20-inch, arcing fire, sword and sweep, very useful. They're there to support your character and make sure that they have a home on the battlefield and they can directly impact the front lines when staying back. And
so we don't have them yet in First Blood, these Danur Disciples, but I think their role is pretty clear. I think it's going to be roughly the same as TLOK. So they're an accurate range unit that will bring a strong range game to the Sorcerer Kings. So while your goals and your Rakshasas are off doing their work, the Danur Disciples will sit a little bit slightly back on the objectives and to sort of pick apart the other opponent's range element as well. So they're a very powerful range unit.
so for Carlos Padilla, I think you will find more similarities with marksman clones rather than bow chosen. So they're more of that nature. They're more like, that kind of archer. And the Mahout. So for those that don't know, this is an elemental elephant with just the Danur Disciple archers on the back. And it's just, right. So what you see is exactly what you think it is, right? There's no secrets here. It is an elemental elephant with archers on its back. No surprises. It is exactly what you think it is. So we're talking about 20 wounds, 10 attacks, right? Just a nice little. It's not an offensive piece like the Tontor, so don't go out aggressive with it. Think of it more of a supporting the line, getting into those prolonged fights, supporting the rest of your, let's say, mortal forces, copying an objective, and also being able to project a little bit of power. Actually, not even a little bit. It has 10 shots. That's quite a few shots, right? Over 20 inches. A very good, well-rounded addition to your Sorcerer Kings for TLUK. 240 points. A steal.
Sever, do you want to get into some of the aesthetic pieces on how and why this was designed the way it was? Sever?
Give me a moment. Can you guys hear me?
Yep.
Sorry, I'm in a noisy environment and I don't want background noise to affect it.
So the question was, do you want to get into some of the reasons it was designed the way it was, as an elemental, as somebody put it?
That's funny. The elemental.
I think we've lost him.
Hello, can you hear me?
Yeah, we can hear you.
Okay, yeah, there was a strange gap there. So the reasons why we designed the Mahout the way we did. Is that what you were asking, Daryl?
Yes,
Sorry.
that's correct. Yes.
So at the heart of it, it's if anybody knows the story of Alexander and Bucephala, the death of his horse, it's an homage to that. Basically, Ormuz, the sorcerer king of Earth, lost his elephant, his prized elephant, who also happened to be the last in his menagerie that he was shipping over. And he has since, in that particular manner of the obsessive and perfectionist Earth gifted, been sculpting statues, trying to recapture the glory and honor that was his steed. And he has failed several hundred times. But that doesn't prevent him from animating them and then basically handing them off to disciples, people who make him happy, city-states. It's basically his lazy default, here, have a gift. So that's basically the story behind the Mahout.
So you're saying it's a literal white elephant gift? Gotcha.
Good one.
That would also make this the first Court of Earth model, theoretically.
Yes, it would. When the time comes to to come up with special rules, it will probably have the Born of Earth rule.
And what you'll also see on this page is a special rider that will replace the disciples, if you are so inclined, as you set up your army. She sits right in the top there.
Yeah, it's a Maharaja, which, of course, you would have a Maharaja sitting comfortably on the elephant, and you're gonna see it as a separate, let's say, entry, the same way that you've been seeing, let's say, the Apex Queen for First Blood. You're gonna see the Favored of Hormuz as its own, let's say, entry. Not to be confused, it's not a special character, right? It's not a person, a specific person, but that's the name of the mastery for TLUK.
And these will release in July for all of you who are asking. And now we leave the Sorcerer Kings and go to Reese's favorite army. And the thing that a lot of people were waiting for to play.
No, they're actually quite great. I'm excited how the Chariots found, let's say, their spot as the dedicated protectors of the city-states flanks. This is essentially a big part of the city-states gameplay that player would have a lot of trouble with. You're putting a lot of emphasis into these great phalanxes, right? You have your hoplites, you have your Phalangites, Agima, and all these great abilities that they need the enemy to engage them in the front. And suddenly you're having some trouble, let's say more than you should, dealing with enemies coming from the flanks. And the city-states chariots are there to do exact that. A lot of you have been saying how you're waiting for these in order to start getting into your world, world tournaments. Essentially, it is a regiment that you can take from 1 up to 3 chariots, and all of the chariots will be playing separately with their own command card as if it were their own regiments. So you purchase, let's say, a slot, and that slot can have 1 up to 3 chariots of any combination. They don't have to be all the same. Essentially, one restricted slot can mean up to three chariots. Ezekiel is asking, are we expecting to see these in every competitive CS army? Not particularly. I wouldn't say that every competitive city states army, but if you want to play with, let's say, a more mobile force, if you want to focus more on the let's say on the Iparchos, and if I can let's say suggest, and you didn't hear this from me, that maybe Iparchos one day potentially could ride a chariot as well. You're gonna see, you're gonna see more. You're gonna get a lot of millions out of them, but they're there to support your flanks when you're playing with a more, let's say, slow and steady, phalanx heavy city states force. For First Blood, I want to tell you that you will see them playing on these rectangular bases. Now, for the purposes of, you understand that taking them out would create systemic issues for First Blood as it is right now. In First Blood, you will see them playing exactly as you see them for TLUK.
Yeah, we have a slight clarification on the rule called chariot, just so that ensure that for all intents and purposes, it's still like one medium cavalry model, just for in-game purposes, for like scoring and a lot of different things. And of course, in First Blood, the synergy is very well attuned to the Eparchos. The Eparchos gives them a lot of benefit, including the companion cavalry. So if you want a departure from like sort of the more traditional city states, which is a lot of the infantries, you bring these chariots, and you also bring companion cavalries, but you also want to bring in some components of the phalangites as well, because then you trigger some of the synergies with the Eparchos, such as the hammer and anvil. So a bit more of a mixed bag compared to the more traditional, infantry plus like a Tyrian every now and then. You wanted to sort of have a bit more mobile. So yeah, these are options. These are very good options, range options. So you'll see them a lot.
And these released the end of May, so not far away. 2 months. And now we move to the Spires, and I know he teased an early sculpt of the Leonine Avatara, but now here's all 3 of them along with the Desolation drones, which we've not shown before.
Right. I mean, okay, so I think the some of these don't require really an introduction. The Desolation drones are actually part of some of the regiments that will receive a little bit of a tuning. So expect them to see a little bit of a price change and see them as mainstay potentially in the future. And the same Leonine Avatara, although no necessarily no main changes, you will be waiting for some really nice, let's say, change of pace for a good selection of words when a beautiful avatar Prideborn comes out to play with them. So the Desolation drones, these think of those great, let's say, torrential fire sort of not flamethrowers, but let's say acid throwers. I guess the Spires did find another use into using reprocessing agents, as opposed to the Leonine Avatara, that they take the role of this long range. They're more, let's say, caryatids and range Dijin sort of gameplay. We're going to be seeing some very interesting to their strategies with the introduction of the new Lineage Hybor, however.
And another bad boy that people were super excited to see at Adepticon in the catalog.
So some of you maybe have remembering that the Stoneforge was definitely not a monster back in the day. So there is they grew a little bit. They ate all their food. But so the Stoneforged is a very interesting departure from adding more and more, let's say, brutes and infantry into the Duergome army list. They did not require that. And it is more an attempt to depart and go further and, let's say, delve a little deeper into the Steel Shaper. aspect of the Dwygom. Of course, this means that ultimately, one day we'll be seeing more about the sub factions and adding more and more as the game goes along. But this is, let's say, our first big. I think Stavro, you would agree that this is the first, let's say, big true addition to the Steel Shaper, let's say, sphere of being. So, Stoneforged
Yep.
with a Steel Shaper writing it, it cannot be
And-
cooler.
Can you all hear me?
Yes.
And not just to them, the story that unleashes the Steel Shaper is going to make a number of other people happy because they're going to see changes. No, sorry, I mean the Stoneforged. So the story that brings them forward is gonna in the living world is gonna give some hints at what's coming.
We have a comment about the dude on the top here. So I thought I would zoom in to see if that continues that thought process. I think the angry
see
Dwygom
it.
looks awesome.
Is it perhaps the story that will be revealed during for the living world? Maybe that's it. But you're gonna have to tune in to figure it out.
I would yell if I got interrupted.
I know. I think that Dwygom would yell regardless.
I think so too. I think that's hilarious. All right, and speaking of Dwegs, we bring to you the first, the second actually, of our 5th anniversary remix in the Flame Berserkers, along with a dual kit for the Magma Forged.
I think Flame Berserker especially need no introduction. You've been seeing them popping up more in Dwygom lists for a reason. Great pieces for early aggression, but definitely the Magma Forged is something I'm personally very excited. It's, let's say, the more I wouldn't say necessarily defensive, but it's definitely, let's say, the more well-rounded version of the Flame Berserkers. We will be seeing a small change from the let's say traditional very defensive version of the Magma Forge that we've been seeing to more of a let's say to gaining a little bit more offense. Magma Forges were definitely one of the, let's say, strongest in terms of defense Dwygom regiments. So you're going to be seeing, let's say, more of a little bit of a departure from that, going a little bit further into the offense. I think the two-handed axes really can give you an idea of the direction.
Any other comments to go, or shall we continue on? We will continue on to the Old Dominion.
Cultists and assassins. So we have two different play styles here, right? For those of you that haven't been following up with the let's say with the Old Dominion, so the cultists essentially are there to help you promote the Aura of Death playstyle, as you are let's say permeating with this Aura of Death. They throw think of like let's say grenades with liquid anathema that makes them. Would they make it more flammable to Aura of Death? But let's say that this is this unholy interaction. So if you're playing with bone golems, if you're playing with a play style that promotes a lot of Karius and Mori, the cultists are for you. Make sure that you tag an enemy regiment with a range attack, and then go with your bone golems and tag the enemy regiment. They're not going to have a very good time. It takes some practice to set it up, but it's incredibly rewarding once you do that. Now that's of course the assassins are the other side of that. They're more about they're more about what they do on their own. They're very high number of attacks. A class of 2 when Inspire you go up to 3 with 7 attacks in Cleave 1 and Vanguard. They're there to enter the battlefield early, position them well. Be careful because they can be quite vulnerable to range attacks, but they are there to ruin medium regiments day by properly setting them up and attacking from the flank when they can. Of course, later on, we're going to see that having a master assassin won't really, you're not going to mind it either, as the deadly blades will add a lot to their playstyle. Now, for both of these regiments, expect a similar playstyle for First Blood. Again, you have the cultists to support the more let's say the more bone golem, Karis Mori side of the army, whereas the assassin are more of the can opener, let's say, more of the right tool at the right place sort of playstyle.
They're more of the glass cannons, yeah. So I think like once your big sort of undeads are, ruining everyone's day with their sort of abilities, and then you have these assassins to sort of like shank them from the back. So they're more of a support unit. You're not exactly going to be sending them out in droves and expect them to do work, but they're going to be sort of creeping slightly around the back, and then when the opportunity presents itself.
Yeah,
If
those
many
nice.
of them die, it's not really a problem, is it?
Nah.
Or maybe depends.
It's an upgrade to promotion.
It's kind of promotion. That's true. Yeah.
They get to join.
Okay.
And now our centaurs.
These are just awesome.
Mm-hmm.
So a lot of talk has been done for the Prodromi and Kiyikes. Just beautiful models. High speed from both of them. The Prodromi is the melee version as opposed to the Ketikes. So with the Prodromi, you have more of this really fast, disrupting melee cavalry regiment. Super competitive in terms of points. 150 points for 4 attacks with Cleave 1. Very good defensive stats. Make sure you keep them at the right place, and you're looking mostly to follow up, let's say later on during the game, once your opponent has had to destroy your legionnaires. It is very tempting to rush them at the board, but think always that you can bring in your legionnaires with Vanguard, place them properly in your objective zone, force your opponent to make a difficult choice and have to destroy them. And once that happens, make sure to follow up with your Prodromi, or later on with Cataphracti. Then you have your center Kerikis. So think of them, let's say, as a much more mobile version of the Kyratids, but without the same staying power. You want to be placing them behind your forward, let's say, either that is, let's say, your block of Praetorian Guard, accompany your Varangians. You want to be you want to play with them the kind of regiment that will drive through the flanks, will be able to reach down the battlefield and support your regiments from the flanks.
Savaroleo, do you want to address the burning question?
Mm-hmm.
Like the band from the 80s, are they dead or alive?
The Kirikes and the Prodromi.
See,
Oh, they're very dead.
everyone wants to know how did they look so good dead?
They have been promoted as with the cultists.
Reese has a special guest joining us.
Tiny hoplite.
I love that.
So regarding pronunciation in Greek, the easiest thing to do is whenever you see 2 letters, particularly O and I, simply it's usually a diphthong, and it's pronounced as the flat I. So it's prodro mi, not oi, not prodromoi, prodrom I.
Yeah.
Welcome to my
Greek
surname
decided
hell,
it needs,
Stavro.
I think, 9 ways of pronouncing the sound I.
We have a lot of the.
There you go, Kerikes. Or Kirikes in this case, but
Or my surname. Literally my biggest problem.
yep.
Your surname Oikonomo.
And
Is
not
it-
even that. Oikonomo.
Oikonomo.
And then the last model that we're showing today is the Savage, as one of the officers for the Nords. And I think you may have seen that one before.
Yeah. So as you've seen that the retinue models have been becoming officers. So this is one of the retinue models that has been becoming like that. Staple upgrade of the Nords. This is not a new model. Apologies. And yeah, so essentially you're going to be able to see other, other retinue models becoming officers as well. Savage, greatly useful. Double time and flank to a faction like the Nords that can essentially pretty much flood the battlefield. So if this is your playstyle, you will definitely want to play with one of those.
What were
So
the other
they're
two
not out
models
yet
for the new kit
They're not
we
out yet
used
in First
for?
Blood for Savage.
Sorry, Evan.
Yep. So, but they'll probably roughly going to follow the same benefit that they give in Tail. Okay, I think the keyword of the Savage that we would like to do is toughness. So we want to make sort of like the unit that the Savage has a little bit more tougher. In what ways? I guess you'll have to find out very soon.
All right. So that's the end of the model list. We did show live the iconic series of art prints. The Spires, the Sovereign was very well received. And of course, as you'll see below, the Nords and Dwegom art is coming next. Those will come out every quarter. So this one being March, the Nords will be June, and the third one will be September.
So there is a question about what will the other two models be used for. Actually, we do have a on our tournament page. You will be able to find a list with all of the models and how they've changed and what they are used to represent now. So specifically, let's say. We have in the in the Nords, we do have a Jarl, and we do have a blooded. We do have a Jarl. We have a Savage, and we have a Thane, which is the one with the banner. So as we move on, you're going to notice that some of the entries for the Founders Exclusive have already been updated. You're going to be able to see the rest as we update it.
Thanks, Leo. Stavro and Konstantinos, do you guys want to talk together about the lore campaign pack and what we're doing here as a new adventure?
Sure. At the heart, let me tell you that the campaign packs are a way of exploring thematic stories that happened in our world. So it is, in this particular instant, it is Eric Shur against Rogodosh, who is a newly introduced, although he has been mentioned before in the story, Holdre, and the conflict between them. Players are going to play a series of 4 escalating battles. The winner of each battle will get a benefit for the... So the winner of the battle will gain a benefit to the last battle. The loser will gain a benefit for the next battle. So that way, if one guy sort of gets ahead, the other one has a little bit of a clawback mechanic to make sure that the final battle is always interesting and climactic. And in the end, they're going to play the 2. And if Costadino has his way, we're also going to be able to link this into the living world in some clever way, allowing the people who play this campaign and who buy this campaign to be able to vote particularly aggressively when it comes to the resolution of this event.
To be fair, it is more of a technical issue of how we will achieve this more than anything. But
no, now you all know it's Costadino's fault. If it doesn't happen, it's his fault.
Wow. Wow. So yeah, the story is part of an ongoing story now, like the setup as you see from the two characters involved, is already being set up in the living world. But the beginning of the story can be traced back to very early lore from our short story Ardent, and then Alecaneros's misadventures and the repercussions to the hold that he abandoned, if we see it that way. And all those things come to a kind of a climax involving characters that weren't directly involved in those stories, but this is how we want to run our world. Things are interconnected. You move a thing here and stuff move everywhere. So it is very satisfying to see that something we started so long ago reaches not exactly a conclusion, but at least a conclusion partly to the storyline that we started so long ago. And honestly, I can't wait to see what you guys will come up with and how it will all wrap up. Good luck to Dwegum and 100 Kingdoms. I'm obviously I supported Dwegum. You know this.
Well, and that's one of the reasons that this is one of the reasons that I'm looking for the picture here, that these, come on, there it goes, are loading in STL form. And those of you who participated in the tournament at Adepticon and also who were at our booth saw both this and the 100 Kingdoms version of terrain. We wanted to make sure that there was terrain for this campaign and that the STL files would be available. So not only will you get a discount to the STL files within the campaign, but you'll be able to buy the STL very soon on our eShop as an STL, or if you want it printed for you, we are working with partners to do the 3D printing of this on each continent is the goal. We're trying to get it so that you don't have to ship cross-continent and have the volumetric shipping costs accordingly. So let me just go back to the catalog. We're very excited about this as a new product opportunity to bring to you, and we do have plans for other storylines and other factions. So those of you who were thinking of typing it, or maybe were mid-typing, will there be my favorite faction? The answer is yes, eventually. And of course, there is the terrain itself. Oh, sorry, I didn't realize it took that long to load.
For players that so first of all, there is interior for players that want to play for first blood. This is designed to accommodate both systems, so you are able to take parts of the terrain off, and you're able to play with it in it. It's fully detailed. You're going to notice the shapes. The 100 Kingdom houses are as you see them, but personally the tower, now you're going to find that there's a bunch of different shapes in there, and it can actually be combined with most of the pieces that you find in the houses. By doing that, you can create these huge structures, whether you want to have manors, whether you want to have, let's say, complicated gatehouses, whatever it is that you want to build. We made sure to design it in this way that you can actually combine them in a lot of different ways. In the STL pack, you're going to find, let's say, little accessories that are like connectors, they're beams. They're there to give you, let's say, that little bit of extra utility out of connecting all these different pieces. So if you are getting the 100 Kingdoms terrain pack, it is really modular. You can make a lot of different amazing buildings out of that with all of the different, let's say, towers and variations that you want to go for it. So think of the pieces that you see there and how they can all fit with them. Now the Dwegum is not modular, just to mention that.
We haven't finalized. Oh, sorry. Go ahead, Leo.
No. And yet you will be able to find some modularity, let's say, in terms of how to decorate the tower. There are a few options you'll be able to have, but not as the 100 Kingdoms.
So I know to answer people's questions, I believe the STL, Stavro, we settle on a price $30 per STL. Does that sound right?
It sounds about right, but we also had a bundle price for them, didn't we?
Yeah, we're working on that. That's the part we haven't finished yet. And there will be a discount in the pack as well. So you'll be able to get a discount if you buy the campaign pack so that you have the whole thing ready to go. I do know that Elric's Hobbies produced these for us for the 3D print models for Adepticon. And they've got prices ranging from $10 to $30 printed in, as noted before, FDM. You can use resin or FDM, although I can assure you that FDM will be less expensive than the resin. But if you do it yourself, not that expensive. So I think it's very doable. The $30 is for the STL of the set, to be clear. For a Dwegum set or a 100 Kingdom set, not the individual piece. Any other questions about the terrain? All right. And then I think somebody noted the coming soon piece. We have not. These will all be coming between now and September. We don't have the artwork finalized, or in some cases, we want to save it as a fun show and tell about later on. So, but these are things to be looking forward to as well. And then you'll see the First Blood faction starter. Somebody already asked. All factions refreshed by June. What does that mean? Very good question. So just so everyone is clear, the Sorcerer Kings will be coming out the end of April for the faction starter for First Blood. The other 7 factions will have a new version in June. Not unlike the new one-player starters we just released for 5th anniversary, we're going to refresh them with different models. They will be complementary to the First Blood faction starters that exist in the market today. So they will have different models. You could put 2 together, have even more beautiful a set ready to go. But refreshment of all 7 come out in June. It will be June is going to be a pretty huge month for us. So get ready for that. Oh, Stavro, you had to throw me under the bus. That was evil. Right at the end. Right at the end. A 2 Brute. Well, I haven't seen it myself, gang. Jordan, you're saving me. Thank you. You have a question.
Well, yeah, so, I keep waiting on my Weaver quartz, and I know I'm not going to get those soon, but maybe we could see that picture now, maybe. It'd be a nice, cute little thing you could do for us.
Guys, final approval is very important, especially when you work with a third party.
I was going to say, you don't have the image, right? I mean, you're just teasing that the image is close, but not ready.
Correct.
Yes, so I was going to say, he was kind of trying to throw me under the bus as a tease for something that I might have done or might not have done at Adepticon, I think. I think that's called payback is a bit of a bitch. So, fairness. That was pretty good, though. I like that one. So, hold on. I love that everyone's going crazy about the Weaver Quartz. Weaver Quartz, I would say, I told Jordan at Adepticon, he wants to cosplay as them. I think that's awesome. How's that? I think that will be an amazing cosplay. And I think he should do it. How many other people, raise your hands if you think Jordan should make a cosplay for that? Yay! So, Chronicles and Legends. We did announce as well at Adepticon the TTRPG that's coming. And saving me from this Talos and Weaver's Court fiasco that I'm now found myself in, I'm going to turn it over to Khan to tell us about this. He and Stavro have been working, and just unbelievable number of hours at creating what will become the Chronicles and Legends series for role-playing games. Gentlemen.
So I'll take it from the thing you said about the hours. I take it as a very good sign about the end product that it doesn't feel that way. Like, we really enjoy working on this product. We have been kind of discussing it almost since day one, Stavro, I think.
Pretty much.
Yep. We're very excited about it. We don't want to reveal a lot right now. I will say that we're going with a 5V Creative Commons approach. So that gets the main system out of the way. We're going to tinker as much as we need to in order to bring it to a place that feels like Conquest and fits the Conquest world. We are very focused on versatility, both in character creation and character advancement, but also in the storytelling and the kind of stories that you will be able to tell. As I said, our primary concern is that we want it to feel Conquest. The kind of gritty, mature setting that we have created so far, we think is very worth playing an RPG into. And the only other tease I can give at this point is Q4.
Well, obviously, I think we can also note that there are planned as 3 books for release and a starter set. Correct? You want to get into what the 3
correct.
books are?
So the first 2 books to come out are going to be the effectively, for those of you who know D&D, the Player's Handbook, in what we call it the core rules, and you have the Chronicler's Guide, which most people, which is basically the world guide. It will go region by region, reveal information. Our approach here is more from the way we've written our lore. You know that we don't like pre-made things, so we're going to give you regions with a hell of a lot of story hooks, and then we're going to leave it up to the players to explore. We're not that big on like pre-made adventures. I'm sure we'll publish a few, but by and large, this is going to be an old school read. You will read about a region, you will read about its inhabitant, its main players, and then that will inspire you to make your story. It's not going to be one gigantic story that then sort of somehow fleshes out the world. And those 2 are going to release together in Q4. And in Q1 2025, you are also going to have the Menagerie of Woes, which is the Monsters Manual.
Both the Chronicler's Guide and the Menagerie of Woes are kind of different approaches to like the standard trio of an RPG, the trio of books of an RPG. So our Chronicler's Guide is a combination of a DMG and a campaign setting book. So expect a lot of lore and information about the world there. A lot. About pretty much every corner of the world that we have revealed so far. And a little maybe about stuff that we haven't revealed so far. At the same time, it will serve as a game master's guide to this is how you can play, let's say, a canon feel adventure in the world of Conquest. But don't worry, both Stavros and myself and most of the team involved has played RPGs for a very, very long time. We know and understand that each table is different and you might want different things. We leave, as you know from our lore, we leave a lot of room for very different things to happen. And we're very excited to deliver this kind of approach to the traditional DMG combined with a campaign setting. And the Menagerie of Woes is going to be essentially a monster manual. There's going to be a lot of monsters in there, unique to Conquest, and also rehashed versions of traditional mythology monsters from various corners of the world. Again, fit to the lore and the mechanics, therefore, of Conquest. But it will also have some other interesting things, as in we approach it like I've been working with the subtitles, a bunch of monsters and how to defeat them. So you're going to see, we're going to have a more detailed exploration of a crafting system that we have, that we're working on for the game. You're going to see weapons, methods, hunting techniques that can benefit in the last fight. We're going to give you tools and ideas, really, not necessarily just tools, and ideas to how to make a monster feel unique in your campaign setting. So a Hydra is a Hydra, and if you played RPGs for a few years, you've probably killed a few of them already in different campaign settings. But there are ways we feel that you can make a very common monster feel unique in the world and a unique threat to the players. And, well, you hear my monster, possibly the cat I have around. Sorry about that. So we want a very storytelling approach to adventures, monsters, everything. We want something that feels, as I said again and again, Conquest. And Conquest takes storytelling very seriously. And we want that to come to the RPG, from character design and character progression to how we will design our campaign setting books and our adventure modules. We will have adventure modules as well, especially at our starter pack. We will have an adventure module from 1 to 5, which is standard, to introduce the game to new players. Not new players necessarily of TTRPGs, but new players to how we approach the system.
Ever anything else you want to add?
Beyond the fact that we're going to be focusing more on less on the magic, let's say, of the world, because as you know, the magic is rather specific in our world, and we're going to be focusing more on feats, skills, abilities, fleshing out the non-magical characters, because the magical ones, I mean, they're magic. It's hard to go, further than that. It's the non-magic that we've always felt you need to flesh out, and an important bit is that we are going to try to empower the players as much as humanly possible, because the storytellers are, by virtue of their role, incredibly powerful in the world. What we want to do is make the players feel powerful. So that is a strong part of how we're designing this.
All right. So I saw a lot of really positive comments about the TTRPG. We couldn't be more thrilled by those and excited to bring it to you. We certainly had a really good response to it as well at Adepticon, and just stay tuned. We'll keep you posted. We'll do a whole happy hour without question on the RPG. And then I just got this image I wanted to show people. We didn't even have it in time for the catalog, but I knew people would want to see what the SK dice look like. And so I figured I would post that at the last minute. I'll remind everyone who is in Europe that Trolls and Legends is this weekend. Our very own and beloved Christoph, who is, I think, on this call. He was earlier. Will be attending Trolls and Legends. Reese will be at BrizCon next month. So fire up for that. I think 22 of 24 spots, Reese, last time you told me. So if you're in Australia, there's 2 spots left. Don't snooze. And I know it's a big country, and I know it takes a bit to get to Brisbane from wherever else you are. But, get going. Get driving now. You'll get there in time. Mike Miller, you have a question. Mike Miller? You're on mute. I guess Mike Miller may have been pushing the flight attendant call button by mistake. So, Mike, if you think of it, just give us a holler. We're going to wrap.
Sorry.
Oh, Mike, you're there.
Yes. Just a quick question. I saw somebody brought up in chat earlier as far as the city-states chariot. Trying to figure out how to measure wheeling when it comes to those units. As far as would you measure from the front as you will from the back?
You are indeed measuring from the front like you would measure with every other regiment. Now, definitely when you have a game entity like this, there is unfortunately some suspension of disbelief when it comes to its wheeling. We are aware of some of the ways that it can be let's say, taking advantage of it. We keep being on it. We keep testing, let's say, ways in which we could let's say approach wheeling with chariots a little bit different, but definitely the way that chariots play in a rank and file game, have this very specific way. But yes, it is from the front corners, as that it's front facing.
Okay. Just wanted to make sure that was answered properly. Thank you. That was it.
No worries. Great question about the RPG books. They are, for now, going to be where the lore will reside. Never say never on pure lore books, but the RPGs are the focal point of our writing at the moment, and that is where it will be coming out. So look forward to that. Any other questions before we end? Q4, Nicholas. Great question for the RPG books. Any other comments from the team before we bid everyone adieu?
Just to answer a couple of questions that I saw about the RPG. Yes, expect to be able to play pretty much, well, not all, but most factions that we have right now released. I mean, maybe not the Old Dominion. I don't think that makes a lot of sense for starters. But yes, the Wadroon, who is someone's request, will be available for play, as will most, if not all, of the other factions that we have available.
And will the lore from the old companions be included in these stories?
Yes, they might be a little reworked to fit the RPG style. They might be given some depth in things that haven't been given before, and less depth in things that are more world building than they are relevant to a table. But yes, some things will overlap, because we approach this as a full introduction to the world again, in a way, because this is a completely different way to play Conquest, effectively. Well, it's a third way to approach our world, so it needs to be reintroduced, but you're going to see a lot more stuff there than we have offered before.
Yeah. Guys, I'm actually short on time, so I have to call my meeting here. It's been a pleasure to talk to all of you, and I'll see you at the next happy hour.
Thanks, Stavro.
Thank you,
I'll
Stavro.
answer a couple more of the questions that are on here.
To address
I want to be clear to Nymarius. I knew I didn't look at that correctly at first. No one said that Weavers are the next one. No one said they weren't the next one. To answer the question of when we will discuss the post-Sorcerer King world will happen probably in early January of 2025. And it will be coming to you very quickly. That seemed to work pretty well to announce the next period's products right after the Christmas holiday, when things feel a little post-holiday blue and we're ready for something else. So I don't want to set any expectations that come back to haunt us based on you said, because we didn't say. Second, I think there was also some questions about the companion books being in a PDF form, and we are looking at some of those scenarios, but nothing to announce yet. It's a great idea, certainly one we've thought about. And again, I want to remind everybody that we have just announced for retailers, so those of you who are on there, those of you who are vanguards, and those of you who have great communities that you participate in, we've announced our Evening with the Sorcerer Kings promotion. We hope that you guys will come together as a community, enjoy food and frolic together, play a little bit, demo a little bit together, maybe paint some of your new models together. But the whole goal is that we're doing, like we did the City States night and the Night of the Angry Chicken, we want to do a couple times a year an event in store. The FLGS is a heartbeat of everything that we do, and we want to make sure that they and you are rewarded with some regular events. So the Night of the Sorcerer Kings has begun. Please take advantage of it. Please get your stores fired up about it. If your store owners looks like the guy in the Stone Forged, snap him out of it. And if he's a super on top of it person, not like the guy in the Stone Forged, you're in good shape. So know that Joey, Hunter, myself, Christoph, Reese, we're here to support you in those endeavors as well. Reach out to any one of us if you have questions. So I noted Trolls and Legends this weekend. Go see Christoph. BrizCon next month. Don't miss it. Andrew, appreciate it very much. We're very excited about supporting everybody. And know that, hey, April 5th is coming up for Sorcerer Kings next Friday. If a store has it, and since we did sell some of it at Adepticon, if it happens to manage its way into the marketplace on the early side, I know nothing. I see nothing. So if you've gotten it or you're getting it soon, and it goes up as an Easter Bunny basket holiday present, you have my blessing. Bye, everybody.
Good night, everyone.
Good night, everyone.
See ya.
Cheers.
Have a good night, everyone.
Now that no one's listening to the question, the burning question of whether there's Leo lore in the companion.